Greetings everybody, my name is Tommy the Game Master and welcome again to my channel. You know, something that has been a black spot on the industry since the early 1980s is licensed games based off of movies. The problem is that it takes a lot longer to make a AAA game than a good movie, and while a developer might start off with good intentions to deliver a product just as fulfilling as the movie or TV show it's based on, oftentimes the game has to ship before it's ready and we get bug-filled messes. It's a shame because games like Star Trek here, which was given just a little bit more development time, I would be talking about how great they are. Studios need to understand that the game shouldn't be another piece of merchandise, but rather another piece of media that goes and stands next to the movie. So what happens when, say, a game from a movie franchise, despite being very popular in the 80s so much that they were still making cartoon series and other merchandise for it up until the end of the 90s, but hasn't had a movie made in it for almost 20 years, and the original creators are the main writers and producers of the game? You get Ghostbusters the video game. This little gem still stands out, and while we are facing a reboot that doesn't seem to honor the original, but seems to be pushing a feminist agenda, this gem is worth picking up because it's about as close to a Ghostbusters 3 as we are going to get. Written by Dan Akryod and the late Harold Ramis, Ghostbusters the video game takes place in the early 90s, a few years after Ghostbusters 2. Rather than playing as one of the Ghostbusters, you play as the Rookie, a silent protagonist, and a person hired on by the Ghostbusters so they can use you as a guinea pig for their experimental new equipment just to make sure it doesn't blow any of them into New Jersey. However, it doesn't take long before things get interesting. A psychotic pulse hits New York, Slimer escapes back into the Sedgwick Hotel, and after investigating the hotel and the ghostly incidents that are happening there, they find they have bigger problems to solve as their good old friend Gozer is back, and it's going to be up to the Rookie to make s'mores out of the guy. As the story continues, it focuses more on Ivo Shandor and his dealings that connect the events of Ghostbusters 1 and 2, as he is the guy who built all the devices that summoned Gozer in the first film. Overall, the story is great. All the characters from the movie, with the exception of Rick Moranis and Sigourney Weaver, appear in this movie and are represented great. The game models for the time period, this is a 7 years old game after all, look just like the actors as they did in the early 90s, and the voice acting jokes are top notch. Despite having played this game about a half a dozen times, I still get a laugh out of this line from Bill Murray.
You've killed my dessert!
The Ghostbusters play off each other really well, and just the little jokes and references in this game I found very entertaining. I do have one complaint though in the story, and there is an odd bug in both the Steam and the Xbox 360 versions which I have played, and that is if you turn the game off during the fire station sequences, you skip them. Great if you're speedrunning, bad if you're trying to follow the story. You will boot up during the next actual level with no clue as how you got there and what's going on. Also, these scenes have a lot of little humor and a lot of little Easter eggs for Ghostbusters fans, as you can do things like check the answering machine or even talk to Vigo the painting, or just listening to Janine complain about her job. These fire station sequences are nice little humorous bits and nice little downtime between missions, and it's a shame that bug exists because normally after I complete a stage, the first thing I want to do is take a break, so I turn off my console and I end up skipping most of these. Ghostbusters is essentially a third-person shooter, and there are for the most part two types of enemies. Ones that just can be zapped like smaller ghosts and things that are possessed by ghosts like statues and things, and then ghosts that have to be captured like some of the bigger ghosts. A lot of the bigger ghosts work by first zapping them until they have about 3 points of health on their bar, then by wrangling them until they're dazed, and then you have to try to get them over to a trap, and then by slowly wrangling them into that trap until they're caught. This is probably the best part about the game. It captures what we saw in the movies and the cartoons so perfectly, and it's what I've always wanted as a fan of Ghostbusters, is to shoot and wrangle ghosts into traps like what I saw again in the movie and the cartoon, and the game does a perfect job of capturing this experience. Each ghost you trap gives you money to buy upgrades, Most of them are simple. They allow you to fire more shots of special weapons before your proton pack has to be recharged for a few moments. You do have unlimited ammo, but your proton pack will overheat if it's fired too much, and it takes a few seconds to recharge. Along the way, you will also get some special weapons like a shotgun, slime, and some sort of homing machine gun. These weapons are fun enough, but oftentimes are only used on non-ghost enemies who just happen to be weak against them, or you can just use them to destroy stuff, because random property destruction makes me feel good. For the most part, the combat in this game is fun and easy, and if you do manage to get killed, you can usually be easily revived by another Ghostbuster coming to help you up. Since it's hard for a whole team to get knocked down, getting knocked out rarely happens, and when it does happen, checkpoints are usually generous. That is with the exception of two areas. The first area is this museum scene where you have to fight off possessor ghosts with slime while keeping your teammates from being possessed. This one's an annoying pain in the ass, because your teammates don't have to be low on energy to be possessed, and rather than focusing on zapping the ghosts, which is where you should be focusing on, you'll spend a lot of time trying to keep your teammates from being possessed while the ghosts attack you with some extremely powerful attacks. This really does get annoying, and just the amount of hits it takes before you can actually wrangle and capture these ghosts is beyond frustrating and annoying. The second area that I had problems with is in the last stage. It's towards the end of the game, pretty much right before the boss fight, and this is where you have to slime tether some really fast moving angels to the gate. Like I said, it's towards the end of the game, so I was expecting something challenging here, but this one's a little bit over the top, just judging by how fast the angels can move, and you only have Ray for assistance, so if either of you get knocked down at the same time, it's game over. So I did find that area a little annoying, especially on higher challenges levels. Another part I didn't like about the game, and this is something you will encounter throughout the game, is you will have to pull out your PKE meter in order to find ghosts in the area, or sometimes a secret passage. Occasionally it's pulled out just so you can find a fun little item to get extra money, but there are times where you're going to have to pull this thing out in order to find a ghost or something to move on to the next area. And when that happens, it's easy to get bored. It's basically a hot, cold game. It's slow moving. It doesn't fit in with the experiences of busting ghosts, and I didn't like it. That said, what I'm complaining about is probably about 10 to 20% of the game, and it's just fantastic the rest of the time, with funny quips on the characters, well done for 2009 set pieces, and just really fun ghost busting. Graphics have aged a lot in the last 7 years or so. The models aren't as realistic as they were trying to be in 2009, but they still fit each of the actors well. You can tell this is definitely Bill Murray, you can tell this one's definitely Harold Ramis, and you can tell this one is definitely Dan Akryod, and they all fit their characters perfectly and are well animated. And again, the set pieces look really nice, the stage design looks really nice, and there's very few problems with camera angles or stuttering that I noticed in the game. Overall, it's a really smooth experience. As I've mentioned before, all the original actors from the original movies come back to reprise their roles, so you get, again, a very authentic feeling like this is a Ghostbusters movie, plus you get a lot of the same music and sound effects being played throughout the game. I should mention that the Xbox 360 version does have an online mode. The PlayStation 3 originally shipped with one as well, but they have shut down the servers, and since Xbox maintains their own servers, I guess those servers are still up for the Ghostbusters game. But from what I remember playing of it, it's not that good. It's basically try to catch as many ghosts before your opponents do, and it just wasn't fun from what I remember it. The PC version doesn't even have a mentioning of an online mode. I guess it was never created for it. So much for the so-called PC Master Race. Getting a dose of the freaky ghost will cost you about $10 on Steam, and that is a perfect price for this game. The graphics have aged and some gameplay elements are just a little bit outdated, but the script and story still sell, and let's face it, busting will always make me feel good, and has some great action set pieces. If you like the 1980s Ghostbusters movies, you gotta check out this video game. If you have time, buy it now. If you want to wait for a while, put it on your wish list and see if it goes back on sale, because I think I got this for around $5, which is an even better price. But this game is definitely worth checking out, probably more so than the new movie coming out. Anyways, this is Tommy the Game Master thanking you for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. And before you go, I would love to have you as a subscriber to my channel. I'll see you guys later.